Hey guys, today I want to share with you something that's really important. I think it's going to help benefit your health and also help you heal from inside out. I pretty much eliminated it out of my diet for the last 4 months, and it's processed sugar, added sugar. And the reason why I want to share with you this is because I know, working as a nurse for the past 16 years, most of the patients, they dread going to the doctor. Nobody likes it. I've never once heard a patient say, oh, I love going to the doctor. The reason why is because nobody wants to get a needle. Nobody want to get some blood work done because they get poked with a needle. It's painful. And nobody want to be given the bad news saying that you have this medical conditions or this kind of illness. And for those of men who are 45 to 50 and above, nobody want to have someone else's finger up in their anus to check their prostate to see whether it's enlarged or not, right? It's one of those uncomfortable things that nobody wants to talk about. But the thing is, the important thing is that we don't have to go to see the doctor as much if we were to take preventative measures. What was worrisome for me was that in about the last year and a half, I started having this growth, this skin tag mole. It was a growth on my cheek. No, it's not on the cheek that you're thinking. It's not the buttocks. It's on the right part of my cheek, and it was worrisome because I cut it out initially, thinking that, you know, hey, this will probably not grow back or anything like that. So I sterilized a razor and cut it out at home, and after 6 months, it came back and it grew. I was worried because this is something that nobody wants to hear about. You know, in my mind, I was thinking this better not be skin cancer, right? And you know, it's one of those things where we dread hearing or knowing. So I decided that, you know, regardless of what it is, I would have to dig deep inside and figure out what is it that I need to change in order to be healing myself, healing my body inside out, and what is it that I need to improve on so that I am being proactive and not being reactive about my health circumstances. We focus so much on treatment in the healthcare field. A lot of times is that I find it that being a nurse myself, a lot of the doctors and the nurses, they don't eat as healthy as they could or should have, and I every now and then I do get a little bit of a sweet tooth, and I would have, you know, chocolate and pastries, you know, something that you can't help, right? You know, bubble tea tastes good. And I have kids, so every now and then I'll get them ice cream, things like that. But we don't know the effects of it until we actually have, you know, an illness or something that happens, and then we realize that, okay, so some of these habits that we've been doing over time eventually cause something that's bigger than us, and eventually it adds up, right? So the focus is really on prevention. Have you heard of this quote where an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure? The whole point of our healthcare system is a lot of times is to treat the ailments. It's not so much of in preventing. So that's why I find that a lot of times there are patients that keeps on coming back over and over and over again for the same thing, because we're not hitting at the root cause where it actually matters, right? So that's one of the things that I find is important, to actually do the things that are preventative rather than just only treating. And not only that, if or when you have an illness, at least you slow down the illness trajectory over the course of time, so it improves your quality of life a little bit more. So why do I want to tell you the story about my my little growth that I had on my face? It's because the reason why is, you know, skin can tell a lot about your health. So let's say you're feeling hot, sweaty, you know, you would feel like your skin would be like flush, reddened, and, you know, sweaty like that, you know, because of weather, or it's because sometimes if someone says something and you feel embarrassed about it, it shows on your skin. And another thing is that if you're anemic, say you don't have enough of vitamin B12, or you're lacking in iron, or you could be bleeding internally, you be looking pale, white as a ghost. Or in addition to that, someone might have scared you and you almost shat your pants and you end up looking like a ghost as well too. So that can also happen. So the emotional response and also the physical ailment that's underneath the skin can show a lot. Another thing is, say you're a teenager or you're going through a hormonal phase and you're growing pimples or acne, it's because of the hormonal changes and also could be related to the junk food that you've been eating over time, right? Another thing is that, let's say if your skin is on the yellow side, you're jaundice. It could be a sign that there's something is going on with your liver, your pancreas, and you might have a little too much to drink, too much alcohol over the course of how long that it leads to that color. So sometimes that could be an indication. Another thing is that redness. If you have redness in your skin, it's because there is an inflammation going on. The skin is angry because what you put into your body does not help, and therefore it's mad at you, and it shows in signs of hot, red skin, like for example cellulitis, like that. There's an inflammation process that's going on. If your skin is blue, grayish, that could be an indication of where you don't have enough oxygen to your body, and therefore you look that color. I highly suggest you get checked out, go see your doctor or go to emergency. Also, the skin color black, when it's black, it's an indication of that the tissue, this either in the joints or in case of diabetic, in the joints, the fingers, the toes, it's blackened. It's pretty much dead tissue over time because of poor circulation. That's the thing with diabetes. They have poor circulation because of the sugar, the sticky blood. So the circulation doesn't flow as well. And not only that, the red blood cells gets hardened and stiff, so it doesn't function as well. So the circulation is affected. Therefore, the tissue is not getting enough of oxygen and not getting enough nutrients, and over time it dies, it becomes black. Therefore they need amputation or debridement, which is like scraping off of the dead tissue, and that is definitely not fun. Who likes to have one missing finger, you know what I mean, right? It's better to function with the full 5-10 digits that we have. So you see how much of signs that your skin can give out that is an indication of how your internal health and vitality is. And that's why I want to point that out. So you know that if you do notice there's any change in your skin, either in the color, the texturing, that it could be an indication for you to take action and do something to reverse the effects of it. And what I did was that I had to dig deep down. I had to dig really dig down and say, over the last year and a half about, I was busy and I started doing online sales, and sometimes every now and then I would eat ice cream, buy chocolate, cakes, cookies, like some snacks like that. Not too often because overall I'm a healthy person, but every now and then. And I noticed there is a trend. Whenever I'm on my monthly and also when I eat sugar like that, both combined, I tend to have pimples, I break out more, and sometimes cold sores. And my body is actually, over the years of putting all this junk into my system, has caused me to react a certain way, and it's built up over time. So what I needed was really to analyze what was the problem. And I noticed that it comes down to one thing that I cut out. One of the main things I cut out was added sugar, processed sugar. So over the course of the 4 months, I pretty much eliminated like a lot of food. So a lot of the junk food. So here, what I eliminated was, so cookies, chips, cakes, candies, chocolate, pastry, grass jelly, granola bars. So that's quite a bit of a junk food. I even eliminated some dairy. So Some of the dairy products are yogurt. I used to buy a lot of it for my kids, and I didn't realize that they also develop eczema in their elbow and also in their hands. So it was getting bigger and bigger, and then I realized, you know, why is it they didn't have it before, but they develop it more and it got worse, right? And also ice cream, I got rid of that. Bubble tea, milk, cheese. So I literally got rid of those processed food that has, you know, a yogurt. You might think there's not much sugar in it, but there's a lot of added sugar that's in a yogurt. And people think like, oh, that's the only source of calcium that they can take. But there are other sources of calcium, like from salmon, that you can have that is actually beneficial for you. And in terms of for drinks, I got rid of pop drinks. I never really drank much of pop drinks to begin with. I did when I was a kid, but over time I realized like it doesn't taste as good. I'm gassy and I'm gassy. Anyways, coffee, I haven't drank coffee in a long time. Alcohol has a lot of sugar in it. People might be surprised about how much sugar is added to the alcohol, and the calories that's in the alcohol, most of it comes from the sugar that's being added to it. And these are high calories, empty nutrients drinks that's, you know, you're drinking in, right? I mean, of course, you know, when you're having a party, you want to have fun and all, but I've cut it out completely. I haven't had a drink for like at least a good 3+ years or something like that, or even more. And you'd be surprised by this. I also eliminated fruit juice, like orange juice. Why? It's because some of these fruit juice, a lot of times is that the fiber has been taken away from the juice. And sometimes what happens is that they also added on more sugar onto the juice. And the juice, you might think it's great, but a lot of times it's mostly a lot of sugar that's added, a lot of sugar in it, and you're lacking the fiber. The fiber is actually good. So if you wanted something sweet, eat an orange instead of drinking orange juice. And not only that, instead of people drink orange juice, they drink a glass like that big, right? Whereas like instead of drinking a glass that big, you know, an orange, you know, there's less sugar in it compared to like that glass of orange juice. So actually it spikes up the sugar. It actually doesn't help them. So those are some of the things that I eliminated from my diet for about 4 months. I have replaced it with pretty much natural source of sugar. So I don't want to give people the idea that, okay, no sugar, no sugar, no sugar at all. It depends on where the sugar is coming from. So the sugar has to be from a natural source, right? Like fruits, right? That's where it's supposed to be coming from, not from processed food that are like low nutrients with no vitamins, no minerals, just highly sugar and empty calories, right? So some of the natural fruits, natural sugar that I got are from fruits. So that includes like a lot of vitamins and minerals. Blueberries, that's good for your eyes. Raspberry, that's also good for your skin, right? Strawberries, cherries, dates, rambutans, apple, bananas, persimmons. So some of these fruits are sweet, right? And if you do have a craving, I suggest you try, you know, even a banana, right? So that's what I do. Like whenever I have a craving, I just go resort to the fruits instead of having chocolate, ice cream, or like candies, you know. And not only that, it hurts my teeth. And I don't feel so good after eating those candies. In terms of a bubble tea, I replaced bubble tea with, this is a very satisfying, refreshing drink. I replace it with coconut water straight from the coconut. So we would buy the coconut from the groceries, cut it up, and then drink it from the coconut in itself. And my kids love it. It's refreshing. It's great for detoxifying your body. It's one of those, oh, so good, right? For chips wise, I created my own chips, or made my own chips with kale, right? I call it kale chips. My daughter, my youngest one, she loves it. So what I do is that I wash the kale and I pretty much like season a little bit with olive oil, a little tiny bit of salt, and put it in the oven to bake until it's crispy, and she'll eat a whole plate full of it. And she's also getting her fiber, her iron. It's a great source of nutrients. It's a great source of vitamins and minerals for her, and she loves it. She asks for it, and I have no problem making it because it's a healthier choice. Going back to the drinks, if anything, like water, just pretty much load up on the water. Let me do that right now. Refreshing. So instead of drinking all those drinks, just replace it with water. I mean, it's simple and it's affordable, and you can literally get it almost anywhere, and it's actually good for your body, keep the circulation going, and it helps make you not as tired. So that's something that's great, and I replace most of the processed sugar, or at least the added sugar, a lot of it. So I want to share with you some of the harmful effects of sugar, and not every food that is put out there as healthy is actually healthy, because the marketing of our food industry is very powerful, and there's a lot of, they made food sexy from really good digital graphics, and they make it available, easily accessible. Why? It's because the food industry, sugar is such a cheap form of food that they can use, that's tasty, that trigger the dopamine effects. And not only that, it's addictive, and people don't even realize how addictive it is until they would eat 1, 2, 3, and it becomes a vicious cycle. The other day I was at Costco, and there was this kid who's like about 3 years old. He was crying. He's like, I want chocolate. I want chocolate. And he kept on saying that the whole time while his mother was there, and he was very adamant of it. And it's, even for little kids, it's addictive, and they have no control, and they have no idea of how detrimental, how bad it could be for, in terms of their health, right? So I want to share with you some of the harmful things about sugar that you might or might not even know, and hopefully this will help you make better choices in terms of picking out certain food that will actually help you, right? So sugar in itself is acidic, and it produces an acidic environment. So let me just give you something that over the past 2-3 years with the whole COVID pandemic thing, there's been a lot of death, and a lot of times are people who have like diabetes, who have medical conditions that actually made it worse, right? So, in a sugary environment, acidic environment, cells such as virus, bacteria, and cancer cell, they thrive on that. Whereas on an alkaline diet, where the pH is higher, those cells can't thrive, or they have a much harder time thriving in that environment, or surviving in that environment. So the typical blood pH, of the acidity or alkalinity of the blood is, the normal range is between 7.35 to 7.45, and sugar help contribute and make it more acidic, which is actually not good for your body. Not only that, sugar in itself affects potassium, sodium, and water, and also calcium absorptions. And because there's a lot of energy that is needed and a lot of water and fluids that's needed into breaking down the sugar and being able to use it in proper form. And where the more added sugar that you take in, the more depleted your calcium will be, because the calcium is part of the buffering the acidity from the sugar, right? And you notice that's why, like, sometimes people who have like a diet high in sugar, if they do fall, or if they knock their finger or knock their hand, the toes off something, they end up getting a fracture. Their bones are more brittle compared to those who have sugar in the natural form, or wholesome diet, right? Sodium bicarb, because of the sugar, that gets depleted, because the sodium bicarb is used to buffer the acidic effects of the sugar on the bloodstream. In addition to that, sugars reduce inflammation on a micro level. We don't see it, but on a micro level, it actually produces inflammation, and over time, it can trigger a stressor response, which increase the cortisol level. So not only that, when your cortisol level goes up, you feel more anxious, there's more inflammation, and it becomes a vicious cycle. So sometimes that's why people wonder why they get anxious easier or they get sick easier. There is cellulitis, things like that. It's because what they take in, as in from their diet, right? Some of the things can affect them. And that is really important to understand. You can change your diet and you'll notice there's a drastic difference in terms of how your body responds, in terms of certain illness, certain sickness, and even certain skin condition can definitely improve significantly. So one of the ways to help with reducing stressor or help buffers the stressor effects is, whereas if you have a good intake of omega-3, vitamin D, and also you exercise, right? So omega-3 and vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids can be found in pretty much fatty fish, like for example, salmon, trout, right? It's good for producing hormones in your body. That's actually helpful for moods as well too, brain function, heart function. It helps with reducing the high density lipids. So a lot of it, there's so much benefits to it. And the vitamin D can be found in salmon as well too. Vitamin D, on sunny day, if you go for a walk, have the sun, for 15-20 minutes, your body can produce vitamin D. Exercising, it helps make you feel good, because overall I love exercising. It's one of those things where it promotes like a surge of endorphins, the feel good hormones, and along with everything else. It's just one of those things where I notice, regardless of how stressed I am, I go and exercise. Afterwards, I feel great about myself. So these are some of the great coping strategies, great coping techniques or tips that you can use to help buffers and reduce your stressor a little bit more. Here are some of the foods that are on more of the alkaline side that actually will help produce a better environment for your body. So asparagus, cherries, celeries, cucumber, grapefruit, lemon, lime, lettuce, melons, nectarine, and kale. So that's why I love making kale chips, because it's actually really good for you, good fiber. It helps with other issues as well, like constipation. But anyways, that's too much. I have listed some of those foods that I've eliminated, and what I wanted to show to you was my skin. Like, can you see it? It's so much better. There's no more that little growth that was there. It's no longer there. And not only that, I have so much more energy. I don't need coffee. I feel I sleep better. I just feel like overall my moods are good. My skin looks better, and it feels as if, like I'm healing my body from the inside out. I no longer have those pimples or the cold sore or anything like that compared to when I did before during my period. So some of these things are very beneficial. And what I hope, by sharing this with you is that more aware of the food that you put into your body. We don't know it. A lot of times it's because even when I was younger, my parents, they would buy, food like cereal. Even cereal in itself, there's a lot of added sugar to the cereal. Some of the food that's bought when I was younger, I thought it was good food, but it's not. A lot of the processed food has a lot of sugar, a lot of additives, and because it's affordable, that's one of the reasons why we buy it. And because a lot of the time we're not as educated. I mean, at least I wasn't back then when I was younger. And as I realized over the years, the food that's considered healthy are actually not healthy. So any food in its whole form, like let's say an apple, a banana, a grapefruit, meat, or even like chicken, free-run chicken, coconut. These are food in its whole form. Rice, the rice that you cook instead of like, rice porridge, or that's been all smushed or anything like that. It's it has been processed. Food in its actually whole form are actually good for you. So like increasing your intake of vegetables and fruits, getting your source of natural sugar from fruits, it's so much better because of the nutrients, the vitamins and the minerals that you're getting, that you're missing out on the added sugar food, right? So I want to share that, and I hope that this helps you and it helps you stay healthier, and that you can reverse some of the effects, like the diet that you have. Because I really believe that using food as your medicine is the key to a more sustainable, a healthier lifestyle, and you don't have to visit the doctor as much when you take the preventative measure, do the things that is needed, that actually helps you in the long run. And not only that, you think that because the food that you buy, for example, like the cereal, like the bread, all those pastry, the junk food, you might think that those are food that are tasty, that's good, and that's cheap, and that's affordable. But in the long run, you're paying for it with your health, right? And the healthcare system in debt up to like the yin yang and all that stuff. So, and not only that, health insurance, medications, loss of work because of sickness, that all adds up, and that over the long run is very costly. So that's why I focus on doing the things that's actually healthy, and that keeps you not only that, wealthy as well too. So, and also just want to let you know, I'm doing my 365 days fitness challenge. I'm on day 168. I just finished day 168, the last video. So that's another thing that I'm doing. So exercise actually helps with, burn excess calorie, weight loss, having better discipline in terms of your eating and your lifestyle habits as well too. So anyway, subscribe to the channel. I hope you like this. I hope what I share with you is helpful.